In the Impact segment tonight, the growing violence in Egypt. Now, the great unknown for America is who is going to fill the void when President Hosni Mubarak leaves the scene. Senator John McCain has some serious questions about one of the opposition leaders.
Well, first of all, al-Baradei is not a friend of the United States. Second of all, he could be a figurehead for the Muslim Brotherhood since he has no real following in Egypt. He's lived most of his life outside of Egypt.
Let's bring on the liberal view on this from New York, Erica Payne. She's the founder of the Agenda Project. And here in Washington with me is Maria Cardona, a former advisor to Hillary Clinton. Ladies, good to see you. Maria, how would you grade President Obama's response thus far from beginning to where we are now?
I think he's done a terrific job. Frankly, Laura, as you know, this is one of the most difficult positions that a president can be in. I think he's been very calibrated, as he should be, using Secretary Clinton to be front and center on this, as that should be as well. They have focused on the key messages of making sure that whatever happens in Egypt has to happen peacefully. Clearly, we know that hasn't happened in the past couple days, and they have said that they condemn any violence. They've also talked about the necessity of making sure to stick to that our priorities are universal core values of making sure that the protesters, the people of Egypt's voices, are the ones that are being heard, and that transition needs to happen now.
Right. And Erica, let's go to you on this. The voices of the people in Egypt, it's kind of hard to figure out what that's ultimately going to look like when it comes to an elected official, right? And what we know is there is a wave of Islamism which is moving across the Middle East. You see it bubbling up in places like even Tunisia, obviously Lebanon with Hezbollah, and even Jordan is worried about this now with the firing of the prime minister, deputy prime minister. And now here with the Muslim Brotherhood, with its history of wanting war against Israel, what we know it does to minorities, Christians, what it believes about Christians. How do we square in any way a government that could have a major presence perhaps of the Muslim Brotherhood resulting from all of this? How is that something we can support? Is that part of our universal core values?
Well, I mean, I don't think supporting a leader who tortures his people is part of our core values either. And that's what we've done for 30 years. And frankly, you know, when Dick Morris says that we want to go in there and aggressively confront the protesters, I just think he's coming from an old school of thought about national security that has been proven to be incorrect. Historically, we have supported dictators who repressed their people, who tortured their people, who had secret police. And it's time we learned that, you know, in the heart of everyone is, you know, someone who wants to have political freedom and the ability to have economic freedom. And it's what George Bush talked about. You know, I didn't think I'd very often agree with George Bush, but he said, you know, democracy resides in the heart of everyone, and the students are out there doing this, not, not an Islamic regime.
Again, I'm not here to defend, believe me, Hosni Mubarak. That's not what I'm about. But what I'm trying to get at is the next step, obviously, where we go next. And really, I'm kind of waiting for this speech from President Obama, because he did the big Cairo speech. Why not a speech about the threat that Islamism, not Islam, Islamism, really, I think, it shows us in the way it treats people. Islamism presents a threat to true freedom, true liberty, true freedom of expression. I think that would be a powerful statement and actually go a long way to allaying the concerns of people like me who say, okay, we have a direction here, and it's not that direction.
I think you're right in terms of everybody wanting to hear that, and I can tell you from the standpoint of this White House and this administration, they believe that as well. The issue is, as you know, Laura, these things are complicated, and it has to be calibrated. I think one thing that we have to keep in mind here, this uprising has happened very organically. These are people on the streets of Egypt that want freedom, that want their voices heard. I think they would understand what a fundamentalist, radical Islamist government would mean to them, and it's not what they want. They want real democracy. They want real freedom. They want their voices to be heard, and this has got to happen from the ground up. This has got to be a decision that Egypt makes, not a decision that comes from the United States.
Now, Erica, do you see what I'm saying, though, about the Islamism? A speech talking about what Islamism, the threat it poses to freedom, minority rights. I mean, worry about gay rights. I mean, how about what they do to gay people, what they do to Christians, what they do? I mean, this is something we're hungering for, at least I am.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we get into really tough areas here, and, you know, we have to remember that this country is founded on this idea that you can worship how you want to worship. And there are a lot of people in this country I disagree with. You know,
Yeah.
there are people who blow up abortion clinics. There are people who
Okay,
you
how
know,
do we
show
go
up
from
and protest
Islamism
gay
to the
funerals, and all
pro-life
of that
issue? I
makes
mean,
me sick. But I
yeah.
mean, the fact of the
Okay.
matter is, we've got to support people's ability to have a robust democracy and trust that all those voices will come
All
together
right.
where they should.
This is the
We
beginning,
appreciate it.
Laura. It's an
Unfortunately,
evolution.
We're out of time, but it's complicated,
Yeah.
for sure.